Well, college football season is here in week 0, comfortably in the rearview mirror. We've got a full slate of games to talk about in week 1, and of course you knew that we had to talk our fighting Texas A&M Aggies. I have brought in one of the rising stars in the Texas A&M media space, Andrew Myers, or Drewtamu, as you probably know him around YouTube and social media. Drew, excited to talk our fighting Texas Ags with you. We have fully completed the cycle where I am ready to hope again. I'm ready to believe in what Mike Elko is cooking, and we have UTSA on Saturday night.
Yeah, man, it's super exciting times, man. We finally get to see the team in a year two in action because obviously year one, you're excited, but there's some unstable ground there. You're learning on the fly, but now we get to see kind of what they've been working on, what they've been building towards. We kind of get to see the true iteration of the Mike Elko Aggies. It's a pretty fun opponent in UTSA, so I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, well, let's start there. I mean, I want to break down the roster and get your thoughts on kind of A&M as a whole, but UTSA, you kind of snicker, I feel like, across the country as opponents take on, the contenders in the MAC or a contender from the Sun Belt. I have UTSA as my American champion, and I would be lying if I wasn't saying I'm a little bit nervous about what that offense might be able to do if they get rolling. Defense, they might not stop a nosebleed, but it's no cupcake opponent that Texas A&M has in their opener.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you, man. I would actually take it as a great sign for A&M if you can control that offense because, I mean, they bring in some weapons. They probably have a future NFL player in Owen McCowan. And, they bring some tight ends that are really exciting. And A&M struggled with tight end at times last year. And, A&M's defense, we're just quite frankly looking at them to play better football. So great test, week one. I honestly love it. I love that it's not something you can just snooze through. I love that it's something you have to be full alert for defensively. And yeah, you say you're losing sleep. I am for the defense. I think the offense can stabilize us in this game. I think that's kind of the shining star. But we want to see that, right? It still has to play out. As excited and as hopeful as we are, we have to see them do it. I know UTSA is replacing a lot of players on a defense that wasn't particularly strong last year, but let's see A&M go put pen to paper and have a strong week one offensively too.
Yeah, all 11 defensive starters for the Roadrunners are new faces, transfers, or guys that have moved up the depth chart. So certainly feels like an opportunity for that offense under Colin Klein in year 2 to get their legs under them. And let's start on the offensive side of the ball, Drew, with the bread and butter for this team. It's going to be one in the trenches. The offensive line returns all 5 starters if everybody was healthy. We learned today that Reuben Fatheree is going to miss the first couple of weeks with a lower body injury, and so probably Demetrius Crownover is getting the start at right tackle opposite Trey Zune. But without a doubt, the identity of this team, no matter how flashy we want to see the offense get under Colin Klein, it's going to be through the Maroon Goons and that offensive line, and it's going to be through the running game.
Yeah, if you're looking at identity, it's right there. You go in week one knowing who you are and what you need to do to win, and it's that running game, man. You got the Maroon Goons back. This is, this has potential to be a Joe Moore finalist offensive line, something we saw 5 years ago in 2020, and that was one of the best seasons we've seen in A&M's recent history. So we're hoping to harken back to that and see a lot more of just jamming it down opponents' throats early and often in this season, but talking about what makes this offense elevate can the rest come around? Can the new look, receivers do well? Can Marcel Reed take that step as a passer, not necessarily become like a Cam Ward level passer, but just be proficient in getting guys balls in their hands? But, as excited as we are for the offensive line, you bring back 4 running backs as well.
Yeah.
So they're going to complement each other super well. You're going to have fresh legs out there, and you feel like any game you find yourself in, whatever the matchups are, you just have the stabilizing force of a running game with a quarterback that can pull and run as well.
Yeah, talk to me about Le'Veon Moss, getting him back healthy. Elko confirmed today he's ready to go for week 1 after, suffering that leg injury against South Carolina. And it felt like last year when Moss went down in Columbia, the season changed. After that, A&M's offense really lacked a punch, a physicality. They ran out of steam down the back end of that season. But they've got their bell cow back, and you did mention that the stable 4-5 deep in that running back room, but it starts with 8.
It's really exciting to get him back because, it was a bad looking injury, just not even getting into the medicine, whatever, the label of the injury was, just looking at the injury versus South Carolina. It looked rough. And I was waiting for this confirmation that Le'Veon Moss would be good to go week 1. And we got it. And that's huge for this football team because of this running back room. You got Reuben Owens, you got Amari Daniels, EJ Smith is apparently taking strides. but Le'Veon Moss carries the upside of that room, in my opinion. He's a guy we had kind of sensed it from for the previous 2 years before 2024, but never really saw it come to full fruition. And, he had the physicality. He had that kind of run through someone's face attitude. It was great to see. I think he's sneaky fast too. But what we saw in 2024 that really took him over the top was, first of all, improved offensive line play. But second of all, the cerebral aspect of the game for Le'Veon Moss kind of came together. A very patient runner. You'll see him kind of just follow his blocks, let plays develop in front of him. And he's not a very greedy running back. He takes what's there. He won't bounce early. He will take the lane that's given. He will follow his blockers. And that, coupled with his just innate skill set, makes for a great running back. So he's the lead guy. I would think he's the most talented player on this offense, just looking at tools. And it's so big to get him back, man. He's the guy that can turn a 2-yard stuffed run into a 15-yard first down. That's exactly what he represents. And yeah, you suffered without him last year because, you were already down Reuben Owens last year. The passing game, it never really got its footing in a consistent way. But this year, hopefully you have all that other stuff too.
Yeah, you add in hopefully the next step through the air with Marcel Reed, the wide receiver core with Moss and et al. Just bashing heads in through that running game. And suddenly it's really easy to get hopeful about Texas A&M's offense. So let's talk about the other part of that puzzle. Marcel Reed has obviously had his share of detractors, right? After a learning season last year, there was thoughts that maybe he was tipping pitches, that he really struggled with the deep ball at times. But this year he's had a full offseason to be QB1, to know where he sits and stands in this room, in this offense, and to really be a leader throughout all of it. Not to mention, he's also gotten a ton of speed that's been injected into that room through the transfer portal. It's hard to not feel some things when you look at what A&M's passing offense could be this year.
Yeah, the maroon Kool-Aid is truly sweet regarding this offense this year, man. It's real easy to get excited about it because we're talking about this running attack that we feel like we know we're going to get something out of. But when you look at these additions, the Casey Concepcion busted onto the scene as a true freshman at NC State a couple of years ago, an all-purpose player at receiver, can do a lot of things for you. We're real excited to get him. And, he had a down sophomore year, maybe didn't have the best rapport with the quarterback, maybe was expected to do a little bit too much in that system. But now he comes in and, we're talking about this running game. He's not the focal point. So let's see how he can do. And Marcel was pretty apt at RPO and short stuff last year. That wasn't the problem. It was really when he had to sit in the pocket, make decisions, rely on his timing, rely on his footwork. That's when you saw problems. But just Marcel last year, I think if you get that Marcel again this year in the passing game, I think Casey is a great compliment to just that, because he can take those short yard receptions and just make lemonade out of him a little bit. To make a recent A&M comparison, a little bit of Anaya Smith. As soon as he catches the ball, he's an elite ball carrier. But then what's around him is also extremely exciting, because you bring in a Mario Craver who, as a freshman, wasn't a prominent piece, but he was effective. He averaged over 20 yards of reception at Mississippi State. He was a deep ball threat. Between the Texas and the Georgia games, and we know those are some pretty good secondaries, only 3 receptions, but he averaged 40 yards of reception. So those are the kind of plays that can just change the outlook of a game, and combo with everything else we're talking about, super exciting. And then you obviously bring back Terry Bussey. It'd be really exciting. It's exciting to see what kind of role they'll make for him. And then you bring in an ABR who was waiting in the wings last year. Maybe he was a play away from being a guy last year, but never cracked the rotation. Apparently a fall camp darling. A lot of weapons out there, a lot of exciting stuff to complement Marcel Reed. And for Marcel himself, I think you said it, you nailed it. I mean, he has the benefit of being the guy. It's not the Connor Wegman show turning into the Marcel Reed show halfway through the year. This thing's been built for him through spring, through an offseason, through fall camp. You have the Marcel Reed kind of package of plays there ready to go for him, for the players around him. And I'm really excited just to see him take that step, because obviously learned on the fly last year. And I thought he did pretty well at times last year too.
Yeah, he certainly showed those flashes that made me go, okay, this is QB1 of the program, right? This is who Colin Klein can build and sculpt an offense around that's fast, it's up-tempo, that has all kinds of motion and misdirection. It certainly gets me a little hot and bothered when I think about what that could be here in 2025 against a difficult schedule, which we'll talk about in just a second. Round out the offense with the tight end room for me, and just maybe a quick thought on that, because when I was a student at A&M, our best days, our best games were when we were using the tight end effectively. The Jay Sternbergers down the field, the Donovan Greens to just pick on those linebackers and safeties. we've kind of lacked that over these last few seasons, and for a variety of reasons, health, maybe overall talent. But it feels like this tight end room can do anything you ask of it. You need a receiver. Well, Amari Niblack might be more of a wide receiver than he is a tight end. He's a vertical threat, right? You've got Berkature that can do it all and be a great blocker. You've got Micah Riley that came over from Auburn. It kind of feels like whatever this offense needs on any given play, you might be able to plug and play from this tight end room.
Yeah, it's a very versatile group, a very diverse group in skill sets and from where they come from. You got a guy from Nebraska, you got a guy from Alabama, Texas, and then A&M in Amari Niblack, and you got a guy from freaking Sweden and Theo Mellenorstrom. So you're a diverse tight end outfit in both, regionality and skill set. But yeah, man, you're going to be able to do a lot of different things with this room, and there's reason to believe it's the best iteration of the tight end we've seen since Jalen Wademeyer in his heyday. But I think there's still a prove it factor here. I want to see a guy like Theo Mellenorstrom come in and take that final step in becoming an effective college player, because we know he has every physical attribute in the world. We've seen that he's a willing blocker, and he just talked about the fact that he is a willing blocker, but still learning that technique, because from his account in Sweden, he was a receiver, and the tight end was on a prominent position over there overseas. I can't even imagine what football is like over there, but, he's here now. And I think this year 4 is when things come together for him. And I really look at Theo as kind of the X factor in the room, the guy that can kind of be the true threat in both realms. Because you look at tight ends on the spectrum, Amari Niblack's clearly the receiver type. Like, that's what he's going to do. I don't even know how often he'll line up in line. He might be, a giant receiver for A&M with some blocking upside. But I'm really looking at Theo Mellenorstrom to carry that room to the next level, because I think his play can really change A&M, particularly in the red zone. You have a lot of smaller receivers, and Theo brings that size.
I'm excited, man. It feels like the Death Star is as close to fully operational as we've seen in a couple of years in College Station offensively. But flip it over to the defensive side. That is what the Aggies have been known for throughout their history, and certainly under Mike Elko. When Elko was the defensive coordinator under Jimbo Fisher, A&M's defense got better and better each season that he was there, eventually to where we were calling for the Wrecking Crew to officially be back. Now, last season, we had some ups and downs. There were a lot of highs. There were certainly a lot of lows. Not being able to, quote, defend the forward pass, as Elko put it, that back half of the season was certainly one of the more frustrating elements. But when you look at the defense, I'll let you start with any position group that you want. What gets you most excited about the starting 11 that the Aggies are going to run out there?
Man, I'm looking at everybody to step up, but if I'm looking at one group in particular that's a great chance to do it and a great chance to affect this whole team, it's the secondary. And I'm looking at the safeties in particular, because you talk about a group that can affect the run and pass. Last year, you had safeties out of position. You had single high safeties not centering in the field and, post getting over them. You had, 2 guys standing in the same 5-yard radius, and, you have receivers running free. So that has to be shored up. And I'm looking at this safety room that brings a lot of players back. A guy like Miles Davis, a young guy waiting in the wings last year, stepping up into a role. I look for that group to really be the poster child of improvement for this defense, because, you look at the run game. There were some misfits by safeties that cost us big time. I think of that South Carolina game, some of the big plays there. So I'm looking at this secondary because I think they have it, man. I thought they had it last year, at least by way of tools. Now, I think what we saw there was, I'm going to be fair, and I know we don't like to, play this card, but there were some key injuries. Will Lee down versus Auburn and in the bowl game was a big factor, and not having Tyreek Chappelle was a big deal. Yeah. But you're healthy now. You bring back, for the most part, all 5. BJ Mays was a standout step in for Tyreek Chappelle down the stretch of the year. But Tyreek Chappelle is a very important player to this defense. I'm looking at that secondary to kind of pull this thing forward. Now, linebackers, rock steady duo. I think maybe they're even a little bit slept on from a national landscape, because I think Torrin York's one of the best leaders and best quarterbacks of a defense in the country. Solid tackler. He's limited side to side. He's limited in his ability to cover ground, but the guy next to him complements him well. And I think Scooby Williams really. If you're a Florida fan looking at Scooby compared to his last year in Florida, his first year at A&M, you're like, okay, where was this? This is what we would have taken at Florida. So that group I'm excited for. I think they can kind of be the tone setter of this defense from day one. And then I think everything there is going to have to help this new look D-line out, because, I want to get your thoughts on this D-line. You lose 3 players in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft last year, but, they were effective at times, and at times they were very quiet. So I'm curious to see how you feel knowing all that about that back 7, how this, front 4 can kind of, scale into this thing early in the year.
Yeah, I mean, man, I love a good secondary. I think linebacker, just pound for pound, is my favorite position on the field. And I love watching a good linebacker duo or trio, depending on what your formation is. But I've always said that a secondary's best friend is the pass rush. And at
Hmm.
times last year, A&M's pass rush just wouldn't get home, right? I mean, you had Skirton that was playing heavier than what he was at Purdue, and it really felt like he lacked some of that explosion out of his stance off the line of scrimmage. The Shamars were so close to having, a multitude of sacks at any one point during the season. And for whatever reason, a lot of times it felt like that quarterback got the ball away. This year, I think with Cash Howe coming off the edge, I think with maybe some of the interior presence that you're going to have as well, and then you throw in, a wild card from the freshman ranks like a Marco Jones. I think Texas A&M has enough pieces and enough ingredients to figure out how to get pressure on the quarterback in any given down. Obviously, you're going to need to be able to stop the run, and that started to be leaky at the end of the year. I mean, gosh, against Texas, it just every time you needed to fill a gap to get that stop, it felt like the Texas running back was breaking for 15 or 20 yards. So that's got to get cleaned up, and it's got to sustain itself all the way throughout the year. But I do like the speed coming off the edge that Texas A&M has this year, and that's not even taking into account some of the transfers like Deion Hayes, like Samuel Mpemba, like T.J. Searcy from Florida. I felt like they went and addressed one of the biggest needs, in my personal opinion, from last year, which was just finding guys that can get to the quarterback and disrupt that flow, that rhythm on the offensive side.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to all be about complementary football, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
can't have guys running free, ball getting out fast, and we can't have the quarterback having, you know, 20 seconds in the pocket. They got to help each other out. And I'm with you, man. I think the pass rush outlook for this D line is really good this year. I think Cassius Howell, with those stars that went pro last year, might have been the most consistent guy on that in that defensive end group. I think
Yeah.
every time we saw him play, something positive happened. Great motor, great bend at the edge is a word everyone likes to use, but he has it. He has a mean counter spin move in there too. And we saw him wreck shop in that bowl game when he was the guy. Those guys were already sitting out getting ready for the draft. So
Hmm.
I'm excited about this defensive end group. I want to see our rigidity in the run game as a defensive line. We're a little bit lighter at D tackle. I wouldn't say
A
we're
little bit.
light, yeah, but a little bit lighter than used to. We don't have that 325-pound clogger in like a McKinley Jackson or anything like that. But I like Albert Regis a lot.
Yeah.
And I think DJ Hicks has a chance to really be a swing piece for this whole team really next year, because at that three tech, at that nose position, you can affect a lot, man. You can affect the linebackers, you can affect the safeties, you can affect the pass rush. You can do a lot of things right there. So I'm looking at that duo to really, really make a name for themselves this year.
Well, I know on your channel you've done your season preview, you've done your breakdowns. We're less than a week out. We kick off on Saturday night. Talk to me about this schedule, because last year the one saving grace for Elko in year one was, well, at least you've got the toughest games at home, right? This year you've got to go on the road for Notre Dame. You go on the road for Arkansas, up in Fayetteville for the first time in a long time. You go to Baton Rouge, you go to Missouri, you go to Texas. Where do you kind of net out on as far as maybe a key stretch and what you overall expect from this team when we get to December and we're looking towards, the college football playoff?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think what makes this schedule daunting is the home away split, right? I mean, your three toughest games all on the road, all kind of spaced out throughout the year at Notre Dame, at LSU, at Texas. I mean, A&M has not won at LSU in their time in the SEC.
No.
Going to Texas, this is their turn for the rivalry renewed. This is their big homecoming of the rivalry at home. Those are going to be tough. And if we're looking at a key, really, game, I'm looking at Fighting Irish Notre Dame week 3. That's kind of the one that can be the tone setter for the year. I personally have it as a loss, and I have A&M rebounding pretty strong after that. But I think that's a game where I feel like Notre Dame has a chance to ball control against A&M just because of what they bring back. One of the best running attacks in the country. One
Mm-hmm.
that could go toe-to-toe with A&M's outlook, if not even better in 2025. One of the few that can say that. And I really want to see this defensive line. They're going to be tested in that game. And these safeties are going to be tested in that game. But breaking a new quarterback, we'll see. You win that, you bust the possibilities open for the year. But you're talking a key stretch here. I'm looking right after that Notre Dame game, win or lose. Are you going to be complacent? Or are you going to rebound? Because you got a home stretch. because you got a big road stretch coming after that. You're away from Kyle
Yeah.
Field for a month after this. So
Yeah.
it's a real uneven schedule. It's really crazy. But the Auburn, Mississippi State, Florida game, I mean, that's one where if, a marker for a season, right? You go 3-0 there, that sets you up for success in the back half. Maybe gives you a mulligan. You don't like to look at it that way against LSU. But you're home, right? You defend home turf. A&M's had some really good Kyle Field showings in the last few years, but they have not been invincible at home. And I think one of the big goals for A&M this year, given the home away split, given that your 3 toughest games are on the road, if A&M can go out and defend home turf and go undefeated in Kyle Field this year, I think that should be a goal for this team, because I think it's obtainable, and that Florida game is a big one. But I'll let you take it with this road stretch here. It's looking tough, man. You look at Arkansas as a potential trap game, even though they might have a down year themselves.
Yeah, I'm with you, because my key stretch is that three game home stretch after Notre Dame. I think to even have a shot of going to the playoff, right, you need to go 3-0 in that stretch, and those are winnable games, right? I'm just not sold on Auburn. I know they beat you in quadruple overtime last year. I think they're going to lose to the Bears this Friday night. I'm just kind of out on Hugh Freeze until truly proven otherwise. Mississippi State should be a comfortable win. And then Florida, listen, I mean, the Gators are predicted to be ahead of you by a lot of the metrics and the FPIs and whatnot. But I think this is a team that you should go toe-to-toe with, right? Especially if Marcel Reed takes that next step. He and Lagway should be able to match each other stride for stride. And then it comes down to who's winning in the trenches. Well, we like Texas A&M's chances to come out on top in a lot of those matchups. And so you give them the home field advantage. I do lean towards A&M picking off Florida inside the friendly confines. Outside of that road stretch is disgusting, and it's shame on the SEC for this unbalanced the way that they've broken it. Their scheduling has been horrible these last couple of years, but I'm most concerned about that closing 5 games at LSU, at Missouri, South Carolina, Samford, Texas. That was where the season kind of fell apart for you last season, and so regardless of what you do in the front half, my biggest question that I will always have in the back of the mind, even if we go 3-0, even if we somehow upset Notre Dame, do you have the gas in the tank to finish out the season? That's going to be a brutal stretch on the road, and then you finish at home against South Carolina, a plucky opponent, a playoff dark horse, and then on the road against Texas. That's where I feel like we're going to learn so much about the buy-in, the culture, and ultimately the development that we've gotten to this point under Mike Elko here in year 2.
Yeah, you have to get it right where you got it wrong last year. You didn't have a good November, and that has plagued A&M too long through too many coaching tenures. We need to see that change. But that adds to the urgency of that 3-game homestand. You really want to take care of that, because you don't know what you're going to get in that late game stretch. That's real tough. I'll touch back on that Florida game real quick.
Yeah.
I called it a loss, but I don't have A&M in the playoff this year. I have A&M at 9-3. Sure. And the reason I have Florida as a loss is because I'm with you. I think this is a game that A&M will be favored in at home. But I still don't trust A&M just yet. That could change this year, but I don't trust them just yet to win every game they're favored in. I don't trust them to hold serve just yet. And I have 9-3, so I think they're going to do it a lot this year. Yeah. But I'm calling Florida that one. But on the other side of that, where this game falls for Florida is pretty brutal for Florida, because Florida goes Miami. I believe they go LSU, then a bye week, then Texas, then at A&M. Yeah. So who knows what Florida's looking like come that game? I mean, hopefully DJ Lagway's healthy. I would not wish that on anybody. Sure. But it's been rough. It's been rough for Lagway's health. So let's see what happens. Let's see how Florida looks by the time they get to that game. You win that one. You take care of business versus Arkansas. It's just a weird situation between LSU and Florida. It's the classic trap game, and it's the first time it's in Fayetteville. I don't expect much from Arkansas this year. They have the quarterback, but they lost a lot around him offensively and defensively. Yeah. The at LSU game, obviously, what do you expect, right? You're going to Baton Rouge. A&M hasn't done it. LSU is a team that could do anything this year. They could win it all. They could go 8-4. Yeah. You could say that about a couple teams on this schedule. I think the same thing for Auburn. I'm kind of with you on Auburn, but if they find the right side of that Hugh Freeze thing and, Jackson Arnold pans out, they have the talent to be a playoff team. It's crazy, like the upside and the floor of some of these teams. But I actually have A&M winning at LSU this year, just from my preseason perspective, because I like the way A&M matches up with the Tigers in the trenches this year, where I don't know what we're going to get from A&M's defensive line. I still need to see that. But I'm really, really questioning LSU's offensive line, especially with some of these fall camp rumors. So I have A&M winning that one. And if that happens, you're feeling pretty good at Missouri. take care of business for South Carolina. Let the rivalry game be what it is, because they're going to be favored in that game.
Yeah.
They're the number one team in the country for good reason, but it's a rivalry. Anything can happen. And I think A&M has a lot of talent this year. I think we could put up a good fight there.
Well, brother, I think the maroon Kool-Aid is flowing on both ends of these here microphones. I'm excited. I've got them at 9-3 as well. Every year I convince myself I just won't do it. I won't pick them to go above 8 wins until proven otherwise. And then every fall camp rolls around, and I'm like, you know what? This is the year.
This might be the year.
Exactly. So good to hear that I'm not alone in that foxhole. Drew, for those that are not familiar with you, that are finding you for the first time through this YouTube video, where can they go find more A&M content on your channel?
Yeah, it's YouTube and X at Drewtamu. I do watch parties for the games. I do several videos per week. We just hang out and talk ball. It's a good time. It's pretty laid back, similar to what y'all are doing here. We have a good time. It's A&M centric. So if you're an Aggie, come hang out with us.
Awesome, man. Well, we appreciate you jumping on the show here tonight. Excited for Aggie football season, and I know we'll be checking in with you as the season unfolds.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you guys, the Jimmies and the Joes, for hanging out with us for another team spotlight. Stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button. We've got much more as week 1 rolls along. For Drewtamu, I'm Mitch Mason. Until next time, so long, everybody.